One of the most common questions I get asked is, what kind of quilling paper am I using? So I thought I'd share my thoughts on quilling paper in general. This is standard quilling paper, and the most common width used is 1/8 inch or 3mm. The weight's quite light and it's suitable for making small tight coils and traditional shapes. This is paper from Daiso. They are a Japanese-based dollar store. It doesn't say what GSM weight is on the package, but it's thicker than traditional quilling paper and not quite as thick as Mi-Tientes. I like the weight of it and it's great to quill with, but I just wish they had more colors. They offer packages in what they call warm and cool colors. You can see there's 3 sizes that I've got here. So this is like a bit like a 5x7, and it goes up to even larger sizes. And as you can see, that the smaller sizes that you get more sheets per package, and as you get larger you get less sheets, but each one of these packs are just $2, so you just can't lose using these papers. The shades are kind of pastel in color without being too soft, so I really enjoy this paper. I just can't seem to get more colors in this. When I'm quilling letters, I prefer using Canson Mi-Teintes paper, which is 160 GSM. Every quiller's got their preference, but this is what's sold locally in my area, so it's convenient for me, and it's got a good range of colors. You can see here we're branching out from a deeper red into some soft pinks, and the weight of it is definitely a text weight. It's not a cardstock, it's not bond weight. I tend to flick my papers. People who know me laugh at that, but to me I get the sense of a sheet of paper. So this is a Daiso paper and this is Mi-Tientes. And then for those who like scrapbooking, you'll know that Bazzil is commonly sold in craft stores like Michael's, and you can just hear how much heavier that is. This is definitely a cardstock. So I tend to use it only in projects that tend to be larger. So I have used Bazzil or scrapbooking cardstock for larger projects, such as this quilt bird that I've made. Instead of a quilling needle, I used a crochet hook to make these coils. Now this might be a better option for those who have arthritis because it's just easier to handle. Here's a comparison of all 4 types of paper. As you can see, the Bazzil has a lot more substance, so the coils tend to spring back with more resistance. It's a little harder to get a tight coil. It is achievable, it's just that I find that my fingers struggle with it quite a bit more. This is my quilling binder, and this is how I like to store my strips after I've cut them. This is Canson Mi-Teintes paper, and this is how I store it. So these are actually sheets that I had from college back in the day when photography was done using negatives. These are actually negative sleeve holders, and I actually can't find one that I haven't mutilated. So usually what happens is there's 3 holes here, and then there's already slotted pockets here. So I just basically folded the sheet in half, and this time I sewed it. Sometimes I use double-sided tape, whatever, and I store it this way so that they stay up, and anything excess can just kind of stay up there and it won't be bothered. And so I put all the blues together, and they just stay inside their channels and they don't tend to fight. So I've got all my warm colors, taking my cue from Daiso, and then my greens. These were just the colors that I needed to do for a recent project, and when I need to work on, say, just one range of colors, I can just take that one range out. And when I was doing my quote piece, I just grabbed all those colors and put them into a container like this, just like that, and then I could just take any strip out. They don't fight with one another, and I just find storing it like this was great. And when I'm done, I just take it out and put it back inside my binder. This is a sheet that shows all the color ranges that Mi-Teintes has. So this is just a regular, sheet like that, and then in ways it goes and just tucks into my shelf again. So I've stored some other sheets of paper that I've cut, and this is also Mi-Teintes. It's just 1/8 of an inch. Again, I use it for yet another project, so obviously I need to keep them separate from there. And as you can see, I didn't cut it all the way. I actually left the ends intact, and that's because they don't fight this way. They just don't fight. It's so easy to store, and when I need them I just tear it or use a pair of scissors and just snip it off as I need, and it's just great. I like storing it like this. So with traditional papers, quilling paper, when I have some left over and it's, you've detached it from the glue ends at either end, and where do you store the little bits and pieces? So that's actually how I started using a binder method like this. I just kind of shoved the small pieces in here as I went. So I tried to keep, the same kind of color family together, and they're just too small to put back in the package. So I didn't want to get them bent. And so this way I get to see exactly the length I need, the color I need, and just, kind of dig around in there. This way I don't have as much wars going on in my, supplies. When I'm making shapes and need to store them before assembling, I use a fish tackle box because the dividers can be interchanged, and the box is just $6. That's a lot cheaper than the stuff I find in craft stores. This is a free template that you can download from my blog. I'll leave a link in the show notes below. It's got 4 pages, and the widths vary from 1/8 of an inch up to 1/2 an inch. So it's got all these little lines. All you need to do is print them directly onto your sheet, or if you want to use every inch, you can just, staple the sides of this printout on top of your paper, and you can cut all the way, or you can do what I did and leave the ends intact so it just stays as one whole sheet. Just a note though, when you're printing from Adobe Acrobat, make sure to check the page setup settings. Uncheck the fit to page option, or else your sheet is going to end up either enlarged or reduced slightly, and that's not going to help you. As for me, I'm too lazy to cut by hand. I have an electric cutting machine. I've owned a Silhouette SD in the past, and now a Cricut Explore. If you have a machine and you can import SVG files, you can also download free files and cut your own sheets. So if you do happen to have an electronic die cutter like I do, I'm just going to give you some tips on how to release the strips from your mat, because it can be rather sticky. The one that I'm using right now is for cardstock. So there's 2 ways that I would go about doing this. One is to lift these edges and not pull. If you pull, you're going to create an unnatural curve in here. And so what I prefer to do is lift up the edges, and using my needle tool, I'm just going to run this, and you see I'm keeping my strips quite flat as I take it off the mat. Another way, and so then this way we're not getting any bends with our paper. Another way to do this is to actually flip this upside down and let the initial strips come off like that, and then just gently pry the mat up, leaving your strips as flat as possible. And then we have some strips that are ready for storage now. Now, if you're wondering how I store my traditional quilling papers, this is a foam core box that I've made, and I don't know if you can see, I'm actually trying to show it to you all in one view here. So I built this box to house my other quilling papers that, when they come shipped, they're kind of bent out of shape and curved and stuff, and I don't like it when my papers are not lying flat. So I just have it on a sheet of foam core, and basically I've used thumbtacks to pin them in place to keep them as straight as I can. And here I've got layer after layer in different hues and channels in between so that they try to stay as docile as possible. I don't know if that's really possible, is it? If you guys have great storage ideas, let everyone else know in the comments below. So after talking about all the different kinds of paper I play with, you might be wondering, why would anyone bother to cut their own quilling paper? When I'm quilling letters or larger shapes, they're airy, and I find a thicker paper holds an airier arc better. It's just easier to handle. There's just more gluing area when it's glued to your final surface. Also, I consider myself a hybrid paper crafter because I enjoy die cutting as much as quilling. So it's best when both my worlds collide. If I'm going to die cut a project and make it match, it's always easier to just cut everything from the same sheet of paper and know the colors all go together. I hope this video helps you decide on your paper choices. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks!